theme of home is something that's of universal application. It's a common saying or understanding that everyone is searching for their home. We even have one book published called Home Comfort. But home, I'm going to say home implies family, loving, affectionate relationships. But for that to be something real and substantial and not stereotypical, then it'll have to begin with first establishing our own identity. Right? The perennial questions: who am I? Where have I come from? What is my purpose? This is the subject matter dealt with in Eastern philosophy and Indian philosophy, particularly Vedanta. The sutra there means a compact expression, a maxim, an aphorism that says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. It's peculiar in that it says Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now you should inquire about Brahma Jigyasa. You should inquire about spirit. Since it's an aphorism, every word is compacted with much meaning. So what does it mean by saying now? That implies something happened before this. That they're saying, now, all of that being factored in, now you should do this. So some interpreters, they will say, the now, this is a reference to human life. That now that you've achieved human life, what is that an allusion to? Evolution, what's generally known as, Darwinian evolution, or what Srila Sridhar Maharaj would call objective evolution. Our modification of that is subjective evolution. What's driving evolution is the subject, the soul, the Atma. So it's saying, now, Jalaja Navalakani Stavralaka Vingshati, having evolved through so many different species of life, through so many different life forms and life circumstances. That's what it's alluding to. Sometimes Srila Guru Maharaj would point out, in India, even the atheists accept transmigration of the soul, which is interesting in and of itself. Even the atheists accept that part. So, saying evolving from Jalaja, Navalakani, Stavra, from aquatics to plants to insects to birds to beasts to animals, at last to human beings, and then human society divided into civilized section, uncivilized section. There's gradation everywhere and in everything. So, saying you've evolved to the point where you can inquire about spirit, which means the subjective aspect of things, that you won't find your home or your identity, your reality in the objective world, because you're subjective by nature. What's been driving all this evolution? The subjective aspect. But interestingly, the first book that we published for Srila Guru Maharaj is titled The Search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. So we're talking about search, like this is the age of search, right? We have Google, search. This whole age is predominated by search. Social networking, people are searching. They're searching for their counterparts. We're searching, what are we searching for? Besides the objective things like how to acquire consumer items at good prices. That's one idea, and that's a good idea. But what are we really searching for? What's driving us to consume? What's driving consumption is the search for fulfillment. So how will we find fulfillment if, in fact, we are the subjective aspect, conscious living beings, embodied, navigating the objective existence, subjects navigating the objective world? Will we find freedom through freedom for, will we get liberation by exploring freedom for the senses, or the Eastern method, freedom from the senses, not being a slave to the senses and the demands of the senses? We have mistakenly bought into the notion that through the acquisition, to acquire, control, and consume, through acquisition and consumption, that we'll find fulfillment. But that means for the soul subject to try and acquire, control, and consume objects is not to address its base necessity. What is the soul is searching for, right, is sweetness, love, affection. Sometimes it mistakenly thinks that I'll achieve that through consumption, acquisition, acquiring as much of the objective world as possible, and then I'll find fulfillment. Subjective evolution addresses this base necessity in another way. Just like I've mentioned many times, through the internet, social networking, there are also sites you have like matchmaker.com. That's one, but there are many. You smile. Where the idea is, hey, let's use all this computing power to find my soulmate. Everyone's searching for their counterpart. What better way than this? The maximum amount of data, right? Like if we share all the information that's known about us and put that in a giant database, then there'll be someone on the other side. They put their ideal criteria, find a match for me, right? Like the old song, matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match, find me a find, catch me a catch. Through search, through the internet, right? It sounds like a good idea. It sounds tenable. Fill in the form, put all my ideal criteria, and then find the match in the database. Right? But then it comes again back to, what is our conception of self? Who are we and what are we substantially? So if we approach it from an exclusively scientific point of view, then we may conclude that we're carbon-based life forms, right? But I can't imagine someone phrasing their search criteria as carbon-based life form, seeks intimate relationship with other carbon-based life form. Sounds it doesn't sound too romantic or appealing. When I was in India recently, even government officials like to share their philosophical leanings or education. They want to know, I know something about Vedanta, and they want to have a little discussion, or to let you know that they're up to date on the latest scientific theories, etc. So these two men I was talking to, and one man, while he's filling out a form, trying to have a philosophical dialogue at the same time, says, rather absolutely and unchallengeably, everything's quarks. It's just quarks. We're quarks, everything's quarks. I said, oh, really? And he said, is your wife a quark? What? He said, if everything's quarks, is your wife a quark? He goes, oh. And his boss, who was with him, went, ah, ha, 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 ha. Like, gotcha. I said, if you believe everything's quarks and you believe your wife is a quark or a combination of quarks, I think she will be very disappointed. Right? We don't imagine attaching adjectives, romantic adjectives, to the interaction of quarks. What we seek is love and affection. That quark will express love and affection towards quark is not tenable. Right? One scientist said, half jokingly, but he said, oh, we're just promiscuous chemicals. That's all we are. We're promiscuous chemicals. This seems something less than the dignity of the human race and less than a full realization of our potential. So the search for Sri Krishna, Srila Guru Maharaj, in the beginning, in the foreword, he says, referring to what I mentioned before, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. But he took it in a new direction. He said, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. He said, Brahma Jigyasa, that is a dry thing. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada used to say about Aham Brahmasmi, which means I am Brahma or I am spirit. He said, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. One will grow tired of that sort of repetition. So Srila Guru Maharaj said, Brahma Jigyasa, just the generic search for spirit, that is a dry thing. Said rather, said now the time has come for Rasa Jigyasa, to inquire about taste, right? Love, feeling. The goal, the target of consciousness is to feel something, right? Sat Chit Ananda. There's existence, awareness of existence. But once you become aware of existence, your existence, like cogito ergo sum, when you become aware that you exist, simultaneously, then you realize, I have some necessity. I'm searching for fulfillment. I'm searching for beauty, charm, sweetness, love, affection, taste. So he said, Rasa Jigyasa, now's the time to inquire about the most refined aspect of the subjective world. Generally, when we think about the infinite, we think in terms of the stereotypes of the extreme, which is greater than the greatest on the one side, smaller than the smallest on the other side. That's how we can think of it. The infinite, it must be so great. Everything can be accommodated within it. Or in the inverse, all pervading, all permeating within everything. So those are the two extremes of the infinite. But Srila Guru Maharaj, he posed the question, If those are the extremes, greater than the greatest, all accommodating, smaller than the smallest, all permeating, then what would be the central conception of the infinite? The golden mean. Right? That would be, as one is all accommodating, one all permeating, the central conception of the infinite would be all attractive. Everything being drawn to the center of all attraction through love, charm, beauty, sweetness, affection, being irresistibly drawn toward the absolute center. So he gave the expression, reality the beautiful, the central conception of the infinite is love, charm, beauty, and sweetness personified. Personal conception of the absolute. So the ideal, the search criteria we place, no matter who we try to impose this counterpart upon, the soulmate, inevitably they disappoint. Being less than ideal, inevitably it becomes frustrated and enters, dissolves, dissolution. Because no one other than the absolute can reciprocate ideal criteria. Ideal here is synonymous with the absolute. So indirectly, what all this search is about, it's the search for Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful. Only the absolute is capable of reciprocating fully with every atom of hankering of our soul. The famous saying, prati anga lage khande prati anga more. What every atom of our existence is crying out for, the absolute personality of Godhead is capable of reciprocating that. In forgetfulness of this reality potential, we're wandering the length and breadth of the objective world, the objective universe, voyeuristically envisioning ourselves as enjoyers, until at last we realize that every step, material existence, is a constant source of perplexity. We are yet unfulfilled. We have yet to find meaning, purpose. And then by some causeless grace, causeless mercy, we may come in touch with an agent and get the opportunity to redirect ourselves toward the absolute center and realize our reality potential. As Guru Maharaj extracted from Einstein, reality is a thing plus its potential. We reconfigure ourselves as dedicating units as opposed to exploiters, realizing I'm not finding fulfillment through exploitation, reconfigure, redirect myself toward dedication toward the absolute center, rather than trying to establish myself as an egocentric in an egocentric world. Shift towards a theocentric world,